Welcome everyone for one of the last two of our virtual tours from Shark Bay trip. This is out to Steep Point. Now I've cut a lot of the footage out there and sped up a bit of it because it's a lot of the same stuff. It's about an hour and a half to a 2 hour drive to get all the way out to where you want to go. Now, the drive out from Denham until you hit Useless Loop is all sealed. And then as soon as you turn on the Useless Loop, it's like the gravel road unsealed. Now, there's a salt mining place out on Useless Loop just before you hit the national park. They sometimes grade the road. Our trip in was much like this, like you see with the video. Terrible. I think I've recorded, because I missed the recording going in, so I've just recorded this is the actual trip, but us heading out, but just to show you what it was like, so you know what to expect. Now, when we went in, half of it was corrugated and the other half they were actually doing the work on, like smoothing it out. So the second half was you get a tiny section of bitumen, and then the second half was smoother. So you could do roughly, on that sort of unsealed road, anywhere between 60 to 80 kilometres safely, because it's wide enough for two cars. So it's quite good. And then you go, so if you're lucky enough, you might get that whole section, which is roughly, about an hour or so or more, in reasonable comfort. But if you're unlucky, you get this, what you're seeing on the screen now, which is absolutely horrid. So you either choose to go slow or choose to go fast and try and dodge as much as you can. But I'll tell you what, it was unpleasant. I slowed down for a lot of sections just to give myself a bit of a break. And then you get bits like the other bit. Now, this is the important section. Then eventually you'll hit a section where it says minimum 20 PSI. And that's for this forward driving portion. This is the only real forward driving. I don't know why they say this is a forward drive area only, because this is the only section where I actually needed forward drive in my car. I had my PSI lowered. It says 20. I had mine down to 15. I was in 4 high with my central diff locker on. And there were a lot of deep ruts. Like this one, whoever was doing this before me, either was, I don't know, didn't deflate properly, or was carrying, camping gear, because there was a lot of cars that would take out tourers or so forth. So there was a lot of sections that you can see where the camera wobbles. That's us hitting deeper ruts. I actually was basically just letting the car crawl up these inclines, and because you can actually sort of see on the footage here, I slowed it down purposely so you can see what the worst section of this whole trip out to Steep Point is like. And because it says you can actually kind of see along this path whoever car this was, because it says it must have a raised forward drive. I don't know if I'd quite agree with the raised. You can see there it's not that deep, but you can see also marks of whoever this was that had previously been before me. You can see their diff has sort of hit the bottom in the centre there. But with my car, the Triton with a 2-inch lift and deflated down to 15s, I just rode. This is literally the speed I was going. The car just climbed. I did not have to turn the wheels and dig big holes like a lot of this is. I've actually commented behind saying that she could see, instead of the bumpiness and the deep gouges in the sand that was left by the previous forward drive, I left a nice flat, smooth track behind me. And I don't know what it is with whoever's, how they're managing to do these deep ruts or corrugations. It's either they lose power coming up and then they rev and dig holes, or they're pulling something heavy and have to have issues with some of the height when you're climbing the mountains, because as you notice, there's some inclines and declines. So some of the incline sections, you get quite a lot of side-to-side deep drops on certain aspects. So, but you can do it you know, as you can see, kind of see in the video here, it's just not that soft. So I wouldn't classify this as a very difficult four-wheel driving track at all. This is the worst that you're going to see for everything out there. The majority of what I did while I was out there was all done in two-wheel drive. Although I did have my tyres deflated for pretty much most of the section to help with some of the corrugations, because we hit corrugations as soon as we turned on. Luckily enough, when we came in, we got, well, unlucky enough, we got corrugation till the bitumen, and then after that, until we hit the national park, we're smoothed. And then on the way out, all the way from the national park, where you see the sign that says you cross this little river, and then you'll see the sign to say national park. Just after the salt mine area, that whole section was really nice, and we were able to do a cruisy speed and had no issues going out as the same as we went in. I used a whole less fuel going in than I did out, and that's the other issue coming in. I used almost half a tank getting in, and I've got a 72-litre tank, averaged around 14 litres, I think, in total for the entire trip there to Steep Point, to Avon, to Shelter Bay, few stops along the way, and the journey out, but the journey out I used a lot less fuel because of that smoothness of the road and the actual ability to maintain a consistent speed. So, as I said, this is the worst you're going to see of that area. So if you're thinking, am I going to be capable in whatever four-wheel drive or car that you have, this is the worst of it, honestly. The rest is just putting up with corrugations, and that can really drain you after about an hour or so of that. You kind of have enough, and you just have enough to just go slow, or try and find the nicest, smoothest route possible. But that's the worst of it, honestly. And then this is it, and that's the end of the sand bit. All right, so this is now I've speed this footage up. This is as we're heading out from, this is Shelter Bay that you can see to your right, and there are all the camping sites that you can see to your right. You all got to book all these camping sites, and we're heading to Steep Point. You can see there all those little markers, they're indicating little campsites. There's a toilet there on the left. So this is the corrugation you're going to put up with on the way out to Steep Point. You can't avoid it. It's just there. It's just something you've got to put up with if you want to get out to Steep Point. I just slowed this down. This is one of the, I just thought this was a really nice view of Shelter Bay. There's a few nice areas where I was able to get a nice pan with the car, because there were a couple of bays, not just Shelter Bay, but there's a few other bays like this. It's just beautiful. Anyway, so back onto the track, you head out following the signs pointing you in the direction of Steep Point. There are a couple of other notable points along the way that you can see certain cliff sides. We stopped at one of the cliff sides on the west, so you basically head inland and you head basically across to the western side of that whole Edel National Park, I think is the proper name. I might be mispronouncing that, so I apologise if I do. But yeah, that's as you head out towards it, you head west and then along the outside of the island, and then on the way back in, you actually come the inland towards the eastern side of the island as you come in, and the eastern side is a little bit better. So you get a lot of this sandy, corrugated, gravelly crap that is really firm, but really uncomfortable to drive on. But obviously, it takes you, I'm trying to remember about, easy, half an hour or so to get from Shelter Bay out there, depending on the conditions and the speed you're willing to do. It's a little bit longer to get there than it is to get back, because as we see coming up, you got most of this, you have the sandy stuff, and then there's a little turn off, or as in changing conditions, that will happen in the next video. By the way, I've cut some of this out, so this isn't all the direct, this isn't the whole thing, but I've cut a little bit out so you don't have to watch the whole drive, just to show you the majority of what it looks like and the general direction. So this is the next bit of the drive. You stop seeing the sandy track and you start seeing this sort of rocky track, which is really unpleasant to drive on, but you can tell that there's a massive difference. So just it is one of the reasons why it would be important, and it was important to deflate your tyres, is just to get over this without risking any sort of damage. I went a bit slower, even though this is sped up. I was going slowly over this sort of stuff and trying not to, because a lot of this is limestoney rock, and trying to avoid most of the rocky sections as possible, and a lot of the big rocks and stuff. You wouldn't want to smack in any of those going too quickly or going too fast through this. And a couple of dips where, there's holes where, I don't know, they form from people driving over it. But you get to a section just coming up where you can actually, like, just to the left of the screen is the ocean you can view as you drive along. It's really pretty, and this is basically it. We stop basically just to the left, and this is the scenery you see just off the westerly, just off the road, maybe a couple of 100 metres off the road. This is the cliff face, and that's looks like it's about 100. I'd estimate about 150 metres down from where I'm standing to the base, but beautiful scenery to be able to see the entire western coastline of this point. So yeah, that's exactly the road. There's a little loop. This is one of those markers. You can come out and park just there and come out and see the view of this westerly portion. And then we just get back in the car, and it's just a short drive a little bit further along to get to the actual steep point marker. And it changes. It's still a little bit rocky, but it gets a little bit better, as you can see, with the conditions in the road. So it's only a short section, like in the video. Even though it is sped up a little bit, it does clear up a little bit better. We take this right track because that left track is just another route where you can go to the edge of the cliff face. There are multiple ones like that you can just deviate across. There are strong easterlies. I think we passed the sign shortly that indicates where you can turn right. See, way up ahead, you can see where the track leads. I've cut it out, but there's a little bit up near that top portion where there's a little sign saying that you can go right to the oven, which is where most people fish. But that's the conditions that you're going to get for the rest of the way out to Steep Point, is this. Back to the corrugated, sandy, gravelly conditions. And this is pretty much coming up to Steep Point itself. So this is standard speed, and this is where you see the fluctuation in the camera. That's how corrugated it is. That's what it's like. Actually, it's a bit further. I thought that was it there, but it's not. It's a bit further along. But yeah, this is it, corrugation. That's terrible. But as you can see, there's the ocean on the right side. So we come across, yeah, that's the indication. So right is to the oven. I slowed that down for the oven. So that's where most people go and fish, and I'll show you that shortly. We actually go down there. You have to book, because that's campsites there as well. You have to book to be able to go down there. There's a couple of campsites that are reserved. So if you want to fish and fish there, yeah, you got to book it. So this is Steep Point. You can see the marker coming up shortly. There it is there, and I basically drove up. There's the marker to say, they even got a little white post there, so you can stick your camera up and take a selfie, which my wife did for us together. But anyway, I drive right up to the point, so you can actually see we get to Steep Point itself. But you can actually walk out much further from this, because the cliff face doesn't actually finish until a couple hundred meters in front. So I mean, I actually do a little bit of a U-turn here just to show you the view of what you see at that most westerly point. So that's the tip, and there over there you can see is Dirt Hog Island is way off in the distance, which you can only get to by. So that's us in front. Well, that's me. So in front of the Steep Point marker. So Triton did it all the way. So this is the actual. I took a little video panning across. I'm actually as far away from the couple hundred meters from the car, right on the edge of the actual cliff face, looking out from the ocean. And then you can look down, you can see that, yeah, still it's a couple hundred meters down. You wouldn't want to fall. So I had to be pretty cautious to, I didn't want to get too close to the edge, but I wanted to get some nice vision to be able to show how beautiful it looks, and just like such openness of the ocean. So that's to the right, and I have a couple of pictures. That's looking straight down from the cliff with the waves crashing in. That's looking to the right, where the rightmost point of Steep Point is. That's from that rightmost point looking back left. There's a bit of the cliff and then the reef. It's looking straight down at the deepest section between the two rock faces, and that's the whole view right from the leftmost point of Steep Point, and that's looking out from the ocean from that most westerly point. So that's the end of Steep Point. Next video is coming up, will be for the oven and Shelter Bay, so tune in for that one, and thanks guys.